The train screamed across the open plains like it was afraid of what waited at the end of the tracks. Smoke coiled into the blue Texas sky, rolling over miles of dry grass that bent beneath the wind like a sea of gold. Inside the last carriage, sitting far too upright for comfort, was a woman who did not bend for anything. Her name was Alara Volkova. They called her Giant back east, not as an insult, but because she stood nearly a head taller than most women and carried herself like she had been carved from oak instead of flesh. Broad-shouldered, strong-armed, long black hair braided down her back like a warrior's rope. She had worked docks, hauled cargo, and broken the nose of a man who once laughed when she said she'd cross the ocean alone. And now she was crossing something even wilder. Texas. She had answered an advertisement posted in a newspaper weeks ago. Rancher seeking wife. Strong spirit required. No nonsense. No nonsense. The man who wrote it signed only one name, Colt Maddox. Rumor described him as a horse breaker. A drifter who settled long enough to build fences and break stallions that other men were too afraid to approach. A man with a temper like desert lightning and silence like winter frost. Alara folded the paper one last time and tucked it into her small leather case. She had not crossed an ocean and a continent to marry a coward. The train hissed to a stop at Blackridge Station. Dust swirled. Wind pushed heat against her face the moment she stepped down. And there he stood. Colt Maddox leaned against a wooden post as though the entire frontier bored him. Wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow over sharp eyes. Gray shirt rolled to his forearms. Dark jeans. Boots planted firm like roots. He didn't move toward her. He just looked. His gaze traveled from her boots, to her shoulders, to the braid hanging down her back. And then up. One brow lifted. "You're the bride?" he asked. His voice was low. Controlled. Testing. Alara stepped forward, towering nearly eye to eye with him despite his height. "You're the man who ordered one," she replied evenly. The air shifted. A ranch hand nearby nearly choked, trying not to laugh. Colt's jaw tightened. Not in anger. In interest. "You look like you could lift a horse," he said. "If it needs lifting," she answered. Silence stretched between them. The kind that decides wars. Colt pushed off the post. "Hope you know ranch work ain't polite." Alara met his gaze without blinking. "Good. I didn't come here to sip tea." Something flickered in his eyes then. Approval. He grabbed her single leather bag. "Ranch is 5 miles out. If you can't ride, say it now." Alara didn't answer. She walked straight past him toward the horses tied along the post. Without hesitation, she placed her palm against the neck of the largest stallion, a restless black beast that had already bitten 2 men that morning. The horse stilled. Colt watched carefully. Alara leaned close to the animal's ear, whispering something in a language none of them understood. The stallion lowered its head. She swung up in one smooth movement. Every ranch hand went silent. Colt's expression changed. Just barely. "Well," he muttered, mounting his own horse. "Let's see if you can stay on." They rode hard. Wind tearing at clothes. Dust rising behind them like smoke. Colt pushed his horse faster, testing her, challenging her. Alara matched him stride for stride. When they reached a dry ravine, Colt leapt it without warning. He expected hesitation. Instead, Alara's stallion soared beside his. They landed together. He looked over. She wasn't struggling. She was smiling. By the time the ranch came into view, red barn, long fences, cattle scattered across open land, something unspoken had already begun. But peace on the frontier never lasts long. As they dismounted, a ranch hand came running. Colt. Fence lines down on the north ridge, and McCrae's men were seen riding close. Colt's jaw hardened. McCrae. The neighboring land baron who wanted Maddox property and had been pushing cattle lines further each month. Colt turned to Alara. "This land fights back," he said. "So do the men around it." Alara rolled her shoulders once. "I did not cross the world for easy." The sun dipped lower. Wind stirred the tall grass. And as they walked toward the ranch house together, neither of them realized that this marriage would not be built on paper. It would be built on fire. And tomorrow, that fire would be tested. If you're already feeling the heat rising on this frontier, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because Chapter 2 is where the wild truly begins. Dawn on the Maddox Ranch did not arrive gently. It arrived with the thunder of hooves. Alara woke before the sun fully crested the horizon. The ranch house was simple, wooden, sturdy, built by hands that cared more for strength than beauty. She stepped outside and saw chaos unfolding. 3 horses had broken through the corral. One of them was Diablo, the most vicious stallion on the property. No man had managed to saddle him. Colt stood in the dust, rope in hand, frustration written across his shoulders. "Get back inside," one of the ranch hands shouted when he saw her. Alara ignored him. She walked straight toward the storm. Diablo reared violently, kicking at the air. The ranch hands backed away. Colt stepped forward cautiously. "Alara," he barked. "He'll crush you." She didn't stop walking. When she was 10 feet from the animal, she spoke calmly. Not loud. Not afraid. Just steady. The stallion's ears flicked. He charged. Gasps rang out. But Alara didn't run. At the last second, she pivoted, grabbing the rope mid-swing from Colt's hand and stepping into Diablo's path with impossible precision. The horse stopped inches from her. Dust exploded around them. Her hand rose slowly. She pressed her palm to his forehead. Silence. Complete silence. The ranch hand stared as if witnessing a miracle. "Strength," she said softly, eyes locked with the animal's, "is not always loud." Diablo lowered his head. Colt exhaled slowly, realization dawning in his eyes. She wasn't here to be protected. She was here to stand beside him. That afternoon, McCrae's riders appeared along the ridge, 4 silhouettes against the blazing sun. A challenge. Colt reached for his rifle. Alara stepped forward first. "You fight with bullets," she said quietly. "Or with backbone." Colt hesitated, then lowered the weapon. Together, they rode out to meet the intruders. McCrae himself smirked when he saw Alara. "Didn't know you ordered yourself a bodyguard, Maddox." Alara's gaze was ice. "I am no one's guard." She nudged her horse forward. "If you wish this land, you will ride for it. A race. Across the northern boundary. Winner keeps the disputed acres." McCrae laughed. Colt studied her. "You sure?" he asked under his breath. She leaned closer, voice low enough that only he could hear. "Ride me like you ride your horses," she whispered fiercely. "With trust. Not fear." His pulse kicked. Not from romance. From partnership. The race tore across hills, through brush, over narrow streams. McCrae rode dirty, cutting angles, trying to box them in. But Alara anticipated every move. She rode like she was born from wind itself. At the final stretch, she surged ahead, pushing her horse with power and precision that left McCrae eating dust. She crossed the boundary marker first. Silence fell over the ridge. McCrae spat into the dirt and turned his horse away. The land was theirs. As the sun set behind the ranch that evening, Colt stood beside her on the porch. "You're not what I expected," he admitted. Alara folded her arms. "Good." He looked out over the land, then back at her. "You didn't come here to be tamed." "No," she replied. A small smile curved her lips. "I came to build something wild enough that no one dares challenge it." The wind rolled through the fields. The horses settled. And for the first time since placing that advertisement, Colt Maddox understood something powerful. He hadn't ordered a bride. He had met his equal. And together, they would ride harder than any storm that tried to break them. If you love this fierce frontier romance and want more powerful Westromance stories filled with strength, passion, and unstoppable women, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because out here on the frontier, the wild always rides again.